Hello students. We see lots of acids and bases in our daily life. But are they all the same, or do they have some difference between them? Let us understand that in this module, and let us talk about the general preparations of acids. To begin with, let us see the classification of acids. The ways of describing it are based on strength, basicity, concentration, volatility, presence of oxygen, and origin. The first one to discuss is the division of acids based on strength. Based on strength, it is divided into strong and weak. An acid that can be dissociated completely is known as a strong acid. For example, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, hydrochloric acid, etc. While an acid that dissociates negligibly in water is known as a weak acid. For example, those that we usually consume on a daily basis, that is, citric acid, acetic acid, etc. Next one is based on the basicity. Acid on dissociation in water produces hydrogen ions. The number of these hydrogen ions that can be replaced in acid is the basicity of an acid. Monobasic acid. A monobasic acid is an acid that has only one hydrogen ion per molecule. Therefore, these acids combine with one hydroxyl group of the base to form salt and water. For example, HCl, HCOOH, HBr, etc. Dibasic acid. Dibasic acid is that which shares two hydronium ions. Its dissociation is done in two steps. They can provide two kinds of salts, that are, the normal salt and hydrogen salt. For example, H2SO4. Tribasic acid. Tribasic acids are those which can combine with three hydroxyl groups. They have three replaceable hydrogen ions, and they produce three types of salts. For example, H3PO4. A few of the common acids' basicity are as follows. Basicity 1 is for HF, HCl, HBr, HI, formic acid, acetic acid, nitric acid, hydrocyanic acid, hydrozoic acid, picric acid, etc. Basicity 2 is for sulfuric acid, oxalic acid, etc. Examples for tribasic acids are H3PO4, citric acid, etc. Next is a classification based on its concentration. It is classified based on the concentration of the acid in water. Based on this, the acid is classified as concentrated acid. When an aqueous solution has a relatively high percentage of acid dissolved in it, then it is a concentrated acid. For example, concentrated hydrochloric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid, concentrated nitric acid, etc. Diluted acid. When an aqueous solution has a relatively low percentage of acid dissolved in it, then it is a dilute acid. For example, dilute hydrochloric acid, dilute sulfuric acid, dilute nitric acid, etc. Based on volatility, acid is divided into low volatile with higher boiling points, like orthophosphoric acid and sulfuric acid. In contrast, high volatile acid means the one which is HCl or HBr. Based on the presence of oxygen, it is classified into two types: oxoacids having oxygen in the acid composition. For example, sulfuric acid, carbonic acid, nitric acid. The second one is hydracid, those acids that don't contain any oxygen atom in it, like HF, HCl, and HI. The last way of classifying acids is based on the source or origin. Organic acid. This is the acid obtained from organic materials, such as plants and animals. For example, citric acid, citrus fruits, acetic acid, vinegar, oleic acid, olive oil, etc. Mineral acid. Mineral acid is procured from minerals. They are also known as inorganic acids. They do not contain carbon. For example, H2SO4, HCl, HNO3, etc. In a similar way, we can also classify bases on strength, acidity, and concentration. Just like acids, the strength of bases depends on the number of hydroxyl ions it produces when dissolved in water. Strong base. A base that ionizes completely in water is known as a strong base. For example, NaOH. Weak base. A base that feebly ionizes in water is known as a weak base. For example, NH4OH. The acidity of a base depends on the number of hydroxyl ions it contains. It is usually of three types: monoacidic base, diacidic base, and triacidic base. Monoacidic base releases one OH- per molecule. For example, NaOH. Diacidic base releases 2 OH- per molecule. For example, CaOH twice. Triacidic base is the one that releases 3 OH- per molecule. For example, aluminium hydroxide. The concentration of the base depends upon the amount of base dissolved in water. It is of two types, that are concentrated and dilute base. Concentrated base. When an aqueous solution has a relatively high percentage of base dissolved in it, then it is a concentrated base. For example, concentrated NaOH. Diluted base. When an aqueous solution has a relatively low percentage of base dissolved in it, then it is a dilute base. For example, dilute NaOH. After the discussion of classification, let us talk about different preparation methods of acid. The direct method. In this, hydrogen reacts with a nonmetal to form a hydracid, like hydrogen with chlorine gas. The reaction of nonmetallic oxide with water forms oxoacids, like sulfur dioxide with water forms sulfurous acid, carbon dioxide with water forms carbonic acid, and sulfur trioxide with water forms sulfuric acid. Halide salts with acid give hydracid, plus oxosalt is formed. Chloride salts, when react with sulfuric acid or nitric acid, form corresponding salts and hydrochloric acid. Let us summarize. In this module, we learnt about the classification of acid based on strength, basicity, concentration, volatility, presence of oxygen, and origin, followed by the same for the base, which is based on strength, acidity, and concentration. Lastly, we learnt different preparation methods for acid, which are direct reaction with the nonmetal, reaction of nonmetallic oxide with water, and the last was the reaction of salt with acid.